right. Okay, and we're live. And so, hello everyone, and welcome to a new You Ask, We Answers. Okay, it's Michelle here. And so, like it says in the chat, please let us know where you're tuning in from, who's all here. We're really excited for today's discussion. And so, thank you all again for being here. Um, just to let you all know, we're coming towards the end of our second season of You Ask Me Answers. We got 2 more episodes left. Okay, so it's like, what? But you can also be a part of the conversation. Just let us know if you have any topics or questions that you want to have answered here. And Women Engaged will make sure that we provide the answers. And so I'm really excited about what we have going on here. And if you've missed any other previous episodes, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page where we upload all of these episodes there, and you can watch them at your own convenience, whether you're working, whether you're doing cleaning house, you can always have a little bit of Women Engaged in your space. Next is that we also are live tweeting this conversation. So you can also join the conversation there with us and follow us on Twitter at Women Engage. It's just a great way for us to continue to have these things and be in the know. I mean, Twitter is just, it's the vibe, it's the mode, okay? And this is what we're doing. And so the next thing is too, just to highlight this week, I don't know if folks know, we had the Memorial Day weekend, but it was also the 100-year anniversary of the Tulsa Massacre. You can see a small clip of some of the testimony that was given by some of the survivors on our social media pages as well. But I would highly recommend for you all, if you haven't been able to tune into that just yet, that you should go ahead and take a listen to it. It's very powerful. And when we really start talking about this conversation here at Women Engaged, we really believe that there can't be true reconciliation without reparations. And knowing that those from the Tulsa Massacre, like this is the first time in a long time that we've had politicians really step in and bring acknowledgement to this atrocity that has happened. And so I really highly encourage you all to take a look at that testimony, sign up with Women Engaged to get involved in some of the amazing things we have going around reparations, and just be in the know. Okay, because why? Because we in the know. So sorry. Okay, a little corny today. So go ahead and chime in the chat. Let us know where you're listening in from for folks who are still joining the live. Again, this is Michelle. So super excited to have you all here today. And so for today's episode, it's going to be something really special. For folks who don't know, our late co-founder, Margaret Kargbo, June 6th is recognized as a day for her. And here at Women Engaged, we are celebrating all week long in that spirit. So be on the lookout for an amazing social media blowout. We're going to be sparkling and throwing glitter all over the place. And that's also what brings us to today's conversation. And so instead of me doing the introduction, we actually are being joined by our wonderful CEO and co-founder, Malika Whitley, to give us the introduction and really set the ground for today's conversation. Hey, Malika.
Hey, Michelle. So nice to be here with you and everybody.
I'm so happy for you to be here. Thank you.
Yay. Well, I love the show. You ask, we answers. And of course, Amira's in the background. She's probably will end up, what do you call it, photobombing or something at some point. But anyway, I am really happy to be here today. And, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Our co-founder, Women Engaged co-founder, Margaret Kargbo, was such a dynamic, and still is, just such a dynamic human being, spirit, ancestor now, but someone who, just like you said, threw glitter on everything and everywhere that she went to and brought you along with her, and with her in her celebration. She was somebody who, mentored great, amazing young people, young artists. She loved the bridging art and activism. and being, a connector, networking with, people to make sure that, those who are in public leadership or political leadership knew people who were doing grassroots organizing and, the folks that were making a difference in the communities that we live in here in the greater metro and inside Atlanta. And, she just was loved by everyone. And so of course, the city of Atlanta had to declare a day for Margaret Kargbo, and, so June 6th. And so we honor that here at Women Engage. And for me, when Margaret and I were talking about starting an organization like Women Engage, Margaret was someone who just really trusted her instinct. And she was just like, Malika had a dream. And the dream was, the name of the organization is Women Engage. That's what we're doing. I'm like, look, I know that's right. Okay. I'm down. And so for the last 7 years, we've been able to, continue to build upon, that enthusiasm, and I'm just so proud and happy to have had her as a friend and a co-conspirator and, just someone who, just, I loved a whole lot. And so with that, I have someone else that I love a whole lot who I met through Margaret, and that is Malika Whitley. What people don't know about Malika and Malika is that Malika and Malika also both have sisters named Rashida. Okay, so like we were destined. We were destined to know each other. And so, Margaret introduced Malika to me. Malika is so amazing, is a founder of an organization called ChopArt here that works directly with young people, young people who are experiencing, not having homes and, utilizing the arts and to bring out their creativity, their leadership to support, in all the kinds of amazing their development, and also their business savvy, because Malika Whitley is a business savvy someone. And the other thing folks don't know is that we both are, we celebrate our birthdays together because we are, we also got this whole June thing going on. And then Michelle, you got a June thing going on too. And so, right, M, look, we're gonna have to all do this. And so this is really exciting to have Malika here. Malika is also a global internationalist, travel veteran. So she has so many stories, so many wonderful things to say. And it obviously makes sense that, Margaret was, a dear friend and mentor of Malika. And I just thought how great it would be to be able to bring Malika in to talk about her work and to also share stories of Margaret as we, move into this celebration of Margaret. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such a beautiful celebration.
And thank you for setting those intentions, Malika. I deeply appreciate it. And so excited to be in a room full of M's and June babies, okay? We are here to represent. I'm saying it is our month, okay? I'm loving this. So thank you for knowing that. And I love the similarities that you both have sisters who are awesome. Wow. Just wow, okay?
It's kismet all around.
I am so appreciative of this. So thank you so much, Malika, for giving us that introduction and that grounding into this work as we continue to honor this rich legacy. And so, yeah,
Well, thank you. And I'm going to step away and I'm going to continue to watch the show. But thanks for having me to open up, Michelle.
No problem. Thank you, Malika, as always. We always love to have you here with us on You Ask Me Answer. So thank you so much. And yes, Malika Whitley, here we go. We can just kind of dive right on into it a little bit. But if we could kind of just start off a little bit talking about ChopArt and your journey and how you came into ChopArt.
Yes. Right. Absolutely. So I started ChopArt, and thank you just again. Thank you so much for hosting us on this platform and for lifting Maggie up. Coming up on her day. This is really beautiful. So I started ChopArt in 2010 in Cape Town, South Africa. It was a music mentorship program. And then when I moved to India, I took it there. And when I moved back to the United States in 2012, ChopArt started as what you see today as an organization that serves homeless teens, that does so through multidisciplinary programming, and mainly using the arts as an entry tool for trauma reduction and risk intervention. I really wanted to provide the teens in my community, specifically in the west side of Atlanta, with some tools for them to be able to realize that homelessness is a circumstance but not an identity. And so that they can get a head start on tackling some of the traumatic properties that come along with homelessness, so that they're not stuck in that traumatic place for the rest of their lives. I think a lot of times when people go through trauma, specifically in our community where we kind of like have the belief that you just power through and like things happen, a lot of times we don't stop to process, we're so focused on a survival mode. And so the arts, of course, has its healing properties in trauma. And so really just wanted to be able to extend that. And so that's kind of how ChopArt got started. We've been around for 10 years and have served over 40,000 teens worldwide. We focus our attention here in Atlanta with middle and high school age teens who are in shelters, out of shelters, experiencing housing insecurity and homelessness in some way. And so it's been a journey. It's been an honor to do this work. It's been the greatest gift to be able to know our teens. They are some of the most incredible people you'll ever meet, some of the most creative and resilient people you'll ever meet. And so I just feel very honored to be able to do this work.
Yes. Oh my goodness. My heart is just full just from hearing all of that. And so I just really appreciate it so much. And so I also heard too that you were a mentee of Margaret's. And so I was curious if you could tell us a little bit about your journey, about like how you came to know Margaret and how you became a mentee of hers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm still a baby in the grand scheme of things. So I do want to say that, but I definitely met Maggie when I was a baby, like right out of high school. I was interning at the National Black Arts Festival, where Margaret spent a lot of her professional career as well. And Maggie was the cool kid. Like she knew everybody loved her. She was everything that was cool in Atlanta. Margaret had something to do with it. And so at first I just really loved watching her and the way that she moved, but she just kind of swooped me under her wing in that really amazing way that she does with people, and so yeah, that's how we met at the National Black Arts Festival, and she took me under her wing and kept me on track and helped me to supplement some of the business savvy that I didn't have, and some of the nonprofit street savvy that I didn't have, and she just really put me on game for years. And so it was a beautiful, beautiful sisterly relationship.
I love it. And I love that, like, just straight out of high school, like her pouring into you and like you said, taking you under her wing and doing that just like really warms my heart. Like I unfortunately came on the Women Engage a little bit afterwards. So I was wondering if you can just tell us a little bit of like a story or like something that like a story that you really hold around, your interactions with Margaret and how she impacted your development.
Yeah. I feel like there's so many stories because Maggie was omnipresent, in the Atlanta community at large, but certainly in my life. I remember the day she passed. You could feel it in Atlanta, but you could also see it. You could see people getting the call. You can see people finding out in real time, because that's just how vast her reach was, is that everyone was reacting around you. And so you know, when I first started ChopArt in the United States in 2012, I wasn't really telling anyone. I wanted to, you know, do some foundational work and then bring it to the public when I felt that it was ready to be shared. But I of course, told Maggie, and for months she would just come pick me up, you know, in her Jeep and drive me around town and put me on game. You know, she would tell me how to build relationships, how to build a board, how to create strategic direction. Um, she would tell me how to navigate conflict. And the one thing about Maggie is you're never going to be in a room with her and leave without something, um, whether it's like some new insight or a new contact. And so that was something that she was always on top of, is like making sure that whenever we were together, that I left with a contact that was going to help me get to the next place. So yeah, she was definitely a big part of me starting ChopArt and understanding what that meant. But just, you know, like in like the little things of when I was in college, she would help me with my marketing homework, you know, and we would be talking about relationships and she would be helping me navigate that, and helping me figure out how to be in an office place, especially as a Black woman, and especially as a Black woman fresh straight off of the West Side. Okay. Like, accent was super thick, and in which I love my accent and I wish I had more of it still today. But you know, she taught me how to exist in spaces that called for code switching without losing myself, you know. And so she was just such a great, good sister. She helped me get my first drink at a bar and told me, you know, whispered to me what to order and how to order it. She was just the best, well-rounded, you know, big sister to just help me figure out what my place is in the Atlanta professional scene, and how to exist as a Black woman. And I'm really, really grateful for that.
Oh my gosh, this just sounds so amazing. And thank you so much for just sharing that story with us and really imparting us with some of those experiences, because yes, okay, like, yes, okay, for people who are listening in, yes, all right. Well, like every time I hear stories of Margaret, I hear about how dynamic she was and just all around really outpouring of love and support for folks, and just the overall development and her passion for the arts. And I just, so thank you. I don't even know what to say with that. Like I have to follow that up. It's like, just thank you for that. I guess like you know, to pivot just a little bit for folks who are listening, you know, I think sometimes, at least in the mainstream discourse, sometimes people really don't give art like its due justice, right? Like people are just like, oh, art. But it's like, no, art is like actually really powerful. Would you mind like telling folks a little bit about like how art really does empower community?
Mm. You know what? I feel I can start off with, you know, like the little spiel, but I also feel like Maggie's life really illustrates that, you know. And so, you know, the arts, like I said, it has its properties in healing and trauma, which is absolutely valuable to our communities, because it not only decreases the barriers that we have to mental health services, but it allows us to build in different ways to take care of ourselves, to communicate with ourselves, to communicate with the world about ourselves and our communities. In a way that maintains our agency, and in a way that maintains our point of view. It also allows the body and the mind to release trauma. And so, again, we're living in a nation where healthcare, where mental health services are sparse and hard to get to, but where trauma is ongoing and very intense and generational. And so, you know, just in you talking about this, the anniversary of the Tulsa massacre, you know, that trauma lives in our body, and dance is like clinically proven to be able to help you to release. You know, music is clinically proven to help you to release. And so it's also us. I think that the arts is a way for us to love ourselves through that process. And then also for specifically our teens, trauma makes you a creative problem solver, and the arts hone in on that and make it a productive process, right? And so when we look at Maggie's career and the ways in which she has used art administration to help to build out the Black culture of Atlanta in spaces where, you know, we were just figureheads, or we were just there for special events, but not really institutionalized in certain spaces in Atlanta. And we look at the legacy of that, you know, and how important it has been for our city to have that kind of congregation, to have that kind of expression. When we look at this pandemic and the ways in which the people have used the arts as a way to cope, from everything from TikTok to Versus to the ways in which we do our virtual events now, you know, this is something that the arts gives us for ourselves, but then of course the arts is translatable across so many industries and is needed across so many industries. And when you value it, it opens up the job market, it opens up upward mobility. We're in a city that has been number one in income inequality every year, like it's a tradition, you know. And so I love that Atlanta has such a passion and a place for the arts. And I think when you open it up to become an economic bridge, then it allows people to be self-sufficient while also being self-sufficient in their healing, so that they can break those intergenerational traumas and so that they can function as full people.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was such a juicy answer. Okay, because I heard so much, like, especially like the healing aspects of it, right? For us to be able to cope with certain circumstances and traumas that we're facing ongoingly, especially for those of us in the Black community. But then also too, I think what I really loved about it was like how you said it communicates like our positionality. Like what I've always loved and appreciated is that like art tends to transcend sometimes the barriers. Like being able to look at a piece of art, whether it's writing, whether it's dance or music, or, you know, a painting, being able to really truly understand someone else's perspective through that piece is kind of what I also heard there too. And I really appreciate you too bringing in Margaret's work about really institutionalizing this, right? Because again, people aren't really seeing the necessity of us having these creative outlets and the necessity of artwork in terms of building power. And so I really appreciate you for just like doing it. I'm still digesting your answer. Okay, like
absolutely. And you know, it's so funny because I think that and this is a soapbox moment, low key, but I feel like so often we ask for the arts in the small and the big ways, in the covert and the overt ways. We ask for the arts to come in to fill the need, you know. But then people turn around and say, oh, I don't know how the arts are important. But you know how they're important, because you're asking people to do it and you're asking them to do it for free, you know. And so I loved so much that Maggie put a bag in people's pockets, you know, like that she made sure to use her positions and her talents to circle back and make sure that the people she loves and believes in are taken care of, are well connected, are well positioned to be able to do the work that they love. And that's such a huge part of her legacy of like being such a servant leader. And I think that's so many of us can learn from her legacy how to be a servant leader, how to give yourself, and also how to make sure that you we see women engaged, you know, and I love that before she went on to Spirit, she started this with Malika, you know, and her legacy lives on through this organization, because I know that was also really important to her to have her own thing that was legacy informed. So
yes, and like what that also makes me think too is like, to your point, is that like using art as a way of empowerment, like for people to be able to find their own voices in the mode. Like, would you agree with that? Like seeing art as like, because to your point, people like at one end will say art is not useful, but at the same time are asking for art and not seeing it that way. Like when we start asking for like visualizations of like these very sometimes convoluted or sometimes very wordy kind of thing. People are asking for visualizations, not understanding that too is art, but knowing that like it empowers people to find their voice, right?
Absolutely, it's a wonderful empowerment tool, and I think that the arts have been making the show rock for centuries. You know, we wouldn't even have the information that we have about ourselves as a people without the arts in large. You know, whether it's literary arts or performance arts or visual arts, you know, and so making sure that we carry on Maggie's legacy of respecting the arts position in our community, and making sure that we value it through commerce, making sure that when we're bringing people to the table, we're paying them to be at the table to share that very creative, very valuable skill.
Yes, I appreciate that. So I guess like I kind of want to dig in a little bit about like how you all are using the arts here in Atlanta with young people, especially for those who have been displaced or transient. And so we'd love to kind of dig down into that. Like, what does that day look like?
Yeah. So we have two major programs. Our first one is our year-round program, where we provide art workshops in the shelters. And traditionally that has ended in some kind of public presentation, especially for our visual arts programs, the teens being able to host an exhibition and sell their artwork and receive the funds back from that. With COVID, of course, that had to shift some. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to get to a place where we get back to that. Our ongoing program in the summer is called Camp Envision, and it is the only arts summer camp specifically for homeless teens in the nation. We take 100 teens to a traditional summer camp location with cabins and lakes and that whole thing, and teach theater, dance, and music. And then they perform at the end of the week at the Woodruff Arts Center. And that has been one of our most impactful programs, not only because it gives teens who wouldn't necessarily have access to a summer camp on in a regular circumstance the opportunity to experience that, but because it gives them an opportunity to connect with each other. You know, so much of homelessness is isolation and loneliness. And when you are able to connect with other people who are in your circumstance, and this is not only for homelessness, but for anything in entrepreneurship, or anything that creates an environment of isolation, when you're able to make those connections with shared community, then you're able to create more of an understanding around where you sit in it. You're able to process through your emotions and come up with goal setting behaviors. And so those are the things that we have seen through our mentorship and through our arts and through the communities we've been able to construct for our teens.
I love that, because that is so important, to your point, like really realizing how isolating trauma can be, right? And then two, the importance of community. But what I also hear too is like building camaraderie within community, but also building power. Right? Like that's what I see. Like we can build power in that community that we're building. And so that I'm just sitting here thinking about all the amazing possibilities that that comes with that. And so I guess like where am I trying to go with this? I told you my communication has been off for some reason this past week. Um, is that what I'm curious about is that when it comes to the arts and continuing to build power, like what are some ways in which we as a community can work together to defend the arts and really show up for our artistic community and for those who are dealing with trauma?
I think the first thing that we can do is make sure that we are paying people. And I know that's a dead horse, but it never seems to kind of get over the hump. Make sure that you pay people. And so when you want something even small in your everyday life, like a flyer or a video done or something like that, whatever it is that you can give them, pay it. And if you can't afford them, go to someone who you can afford. So that's the first thing. And invest in the institutionalization of the arts. Unfortunately, and we saw this happen through the 90s, how the arts were being taken out of institutions, how they were being taken out of the schools, and after school programs were ending, and like those structures were being taken away. But our little Black kids are so creative. Like, what? Have you seen them? They can do anything, And so we owe it to them to invest in that, and so volunteer and give to arts organizations that are led by Black people or people of color who are working with people of color, and make sure that you uplift those organizations, because a lot of times people are out here like shoestringing it, So uplift those organizations, tune into people's content, even if it's just a like, or you're just you just have a day where you're just letting things play, just do those little things to help to support people's hustle, because everybody's out here trying to get it in their own little individual ways, and we all are as well, and we can just make those little small investments into people's passions.
I appreciate that. Because definitely want to touch on like pay these people, y'all. Pay these people, okay? Right. People can't pay rent with exposure. Like, people cannot pay like these bills with exposure. Like I think about too, like, the highly popularized trope of the starving artist. Right? And the ways in which we can really combat that. So I really appreciate you for naming that. Like, we need to continue to uplift them in doing this work, and like, one, pay them. Please pay people, okay? Like, don't be trying to like do people and pay them. And I think too, what that also makes me think about too is that like that we also need to value Black artists in the same ways in which people value white artists. Because at least for me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong in this, that at least for me, I see that sometimes there's like a disparity in which people value Black artists, where they think that like their stuff is like that they shouldn't pay them as much as they're paying white artists. Do you happen to see that?
Oh, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. White supremacy is not creative at all. It will always, repeat its script and insert it wherever it can, and so that's absolutely true. I think the thing that is also true about that really breaks my heart, and has been happening since before Picasso, but Picasso is a popular reference for it, is consider that when you are avoiding buying Black art and you want to buy it from white artists, that art may be a recreation. Consider that there's no other part of life where Black people create things and it's taken and it's not credited as Blackness, it's just taken, and so there are a lot of Black artists who are making incredible incredible artwork. And of course, everyone has inspiration or whatnot, but consider the fact that these people are also trying to protect, you know, their creativity, their ideas, and they can't do that if they're not making money from it and everybody else is making money from it. So people in corporations, you know, when you are paying someone to do a mural or something like that, you know, just, you know, make sure that you are paying market price and not the negotiated price. Make sure you're paying the market price for the murals. When you are paying someone to come in for a workshop, pay people the market price. You know, I think that a lot of times corporations can play a huge role in turning the moving the needle on how people view creative fields, you know, because all of these corporations need the creatives all up and through there to make the bottom line hit how they want to. So, yeah, I think there are a lot of ways, and absolutely, I do absolutely agree with you that there is a disparity, and we can be doing little things in our everyday lives to help that.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for naming that. Like, it just makes me think about, like, you know, we talk about the linkages between arts and activism, but too, that people need to be using their activism to really be there for the arts. And I know you mentioned that Margaret did this in her work, and you are also advocating this too about institutionalizing art in these systems. And so we touched a little bit about the school system, but what are other ways in which, you know, we can continue to work to institutionalize art in other institutions as well?
You know, something that I was able to pull from ALMA, which is the Arts Leaders of Metro Atlanta group, was their suggestion to bring in artists for your task force that you think art has nothing to do with. Kind of going back to our point earlier about how people are like, oh, I don't know how the arts fit, or I don't know how if it's beneficial. But you do know, because you're asking artists to come in on the back end to do work for free. You know, you just don't value it, but you know. And so I think one of the low barrier things is, like, if you have a task force that's in science, bring an artist in, you know. I believe it was the MRI machine that a big part of its success was the artist coming in to create a visual around it so that people can relax in the MRI machine, you know? And so bring artists in to help you create, and it does not have to be an art project. Everything needs arts. And then I think also really helping, I think also really helping people, especially students who are in creative fields, because I see a lot of our students in ChopArt really love the arts, but are afraid to go into the arts field because they don't want to be the poor, starving artist, you know, which, you know, I totally get, because they don't ever want to be in this situation again, you know? And so really, I would suggest also really helping people to understand how the arts intersect with all other professions and how those skills are transferable, so that we aren't putting people in a situation to be starving artists. And if they want to practice their art, to be able to have other strands of revenue while they build up their art business to be profitable. But yeah, I think that artists are doing everything that they need to do. And we just, as a society, have to make sure that we are seeking out value and honoring value in the arts.
Yes, and exactly, because I remember having those conversations growing up, because at once upon a time I wanted to go into theater, and it's like, they're like, well, what are you going to do with that? Like, you know, what are we going to do here? And I think, to your point, and I think something that's also coming out of this conversation is that the pervasiveness in which white supremacy, the patriarchy, and capitalism is in the things also exist in the arts. And we all have a role and a duty to continue to really uproot that, right? Like, really take those elements out, because it's that capitalistic nature that makes us, like, choose these majors or choose these studies to better yet, get more capital, because society isn't valuing the things that clearly are of value. Because to your point, like, for one, I didn't know that thing about the MRI machine. I really didn't. But like, I'm thinking about all the ways in which, we need artists on so many different levels, whether it's an artistry with words, artistry with like literary words, speaking words, just being able to convey visuals. Because I think a lot of times people hear just the word art and they just think about visual arts and not, or like, and when I mean visual arts, I mean like classical visual art. So they're thinking of like the Picasso paintings or something like that, and not necessarily talking about like this very holistic experience. So I just, yes, like, just like, that's all I said, like, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I know like we're about 15 from the hour, and I always love to kind of like have this here too. And I think actually ties very well, because I think to your point earlier, art is also used for mental health, is used for unpacking trauma, but also like we can use art for celebration. We can use art for those kind of things. So I'm just curious, like, during this time that we're doing all these things virtually and remote, what are some things that you're doing that is practicing joy or bringing joy to you right now?
You know what? This has been a season of isolation, right? And so one thing that I've been doing recently has been challenging myself to make isolation plan C, because I love it. I love it. I could be by myself for a long time, and I would be very happy. But also honoring how good it feels to be around people who like think like you and love you, and like and who are doing amazing things in their lives, and you want to just hear about it, And so one thing I've been doing lately has been going to the restaurants on TikTok and going with my friends, and that's been really great, because TikTok makes me think I don't even know my city. I'm like, where did all this stuff come from? And so I'm like, I want to get back to like knowing my city. And so it's been really great to go out with friends and get a meal and laugh about silliness and talk about deep stuff. And that's been a really grounding, joyful tool for me. So I've been really enjoying that.
Oh my gosh, TikTok though, when I tell you, like, I am so like, okay, there's two things. One, I'm gonna ask the first one. What is one of the restaurants that you like were really blown away by that you saw on TikTok?
You know what? Virgil's down in College Park, the Gullah Geechee restaurant. Oh my gosh, we were in there like making all kinds of sounds and dancing to our food. It was busting. It was good. Yeah.
Okay, I just was like, I need to know, because I love TikTok too, and I think the other part was like TikTok. Like, first, I never knew that I would be into TikTok as much as I am now. If you would have told me this like before pandemic, but I'm always blown away by how amazingly creative people are on TikTok. Like seeing, and I think too, also understanding, because I mean, at least, especially with this conversation too, is that like us having to look at people who are also on TikTok as artists.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so creative over there. It's so creative, and I was so excited at the top of the pandemic to see all the things people were doing, and I really hope that people would take their skills, because one thing that we absolutely missed out on in our generation was paying attention to the coding that we learned through doing MySpace, and like, I'm sure all of us wish we knew how to code now. So I hope that the generation of TikTok, not that, in a capitalist way, we should turn everything into a bag, but we do know that money, is important. And so I hope that they take these skills, these amazing skills that they have to create this content, and understand the value of that, so they can charge accordingly for it, especially because we're doing so many things virtually now.
You are not lying about that MySpace, okay? Because I swear, we were doing HTML and coding and like building web pages, and now I'm like, what?
Right. Now I'm like, how do we get on the group FaceTime? Meanwhile, I was over here like a hacker to put Lollipop on the song for my page. You know, like I knew all of it then when I wanted to put some music on there. So
right. Oh my God. And then to your point, like the transferable skills that TikTok brings, because it is a skill to be able to get on a video, impromptu, like an impromptu video, and say what you have to say in a minute that's super compelling and gets people to watch it over and over again. Like oh my gosh. I just had to, like, to your point, like I didn't even think about it until you said, but like, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to create content, to build out a storyboard, to edit it, to like some of the edits, I'm like, oh my gosh, these kids are gonna be okay. You know, I'm impressed.
That's exactly how I feel. Every time I see that, like, I think that was definitely one of the many things that got me through 2020 was looking at young people be so innovative with TikTok, because they be doing these angles and stuff. And I'm like, I didn't even know my phone could move that way. I didn't even know my phone could move that way. Like, what is this? It's so, oh my gosh, that is amazing. And I love having this time with you today. I didn't know if there was anything else that you wanted to share, maybe about ChopArt or maybe about your relationship with Margaret as we continue to, throw a bunch of glitter around arts and activism and her legacy this week.
One last thing that I wanted to share about Margaret, and we hit on it a little bit, was that she was a servant leader to everybody in pretty much every great thing in Black arts that you see in this city. She has had some influence or some hand in, and I love that. But one thing that we also spoke about a little bit before her passing was that she wanted to make sure that she focused in on doing what it is that she wanted to do for herself and creating her own brands and really focusing in on her own work. And so I just want to, I want to lift her into this space, and I want to pass that along to you all, whoever's listening, that if you have a project that you have been wanting to do, if you have an idea that you've been wanting to dive into, believe in yourself and your legacy enough to try it out. Even if you don't tell anybody about it at first, give yourself that grace to try it out, because you have the idea, because it belongs to you. You have the idea because you had a capacity to see it through, and so you don't have to be on the island. You can bring in other people, but you should absolutely honor your vision for yourself, your vision for your life. And I think that is a great way to honor Maggie's legacy, is to invest in your ideas, invest in your creativity.
That was beautiful. Okay. And I feel like it was so powerful. And so you heard it here, y'all, like in the celebratory spirit that we have here is really truly investing in you, investing in things that you want to see happen and seeing it through, y'all. And so thank you again, Malika, for joining us this week. And thank you everyone who's listening now or in the future to this show. And so, like I mentioned at the top of the hour, we have 2 more shows left for the second season of You Ask, We Answers. And so we're always open to more topics, conversations. So if you have questions or things you want to have featured here on the show, make sure to either drop them in the chat, or you could always DM us on Facebook or Instagram. We always take those things and we can use that to continue to bring you some more amazing content. And so we'll see you all again next week, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, with another amazing episode of You Ask Me Answers. And so thank you all again. Thank you to Malika, and thank you to Malika. We had 2 Malikas today. All right. Shout out to the June birthdays this month, because we out here. And so, like we said, take that time to rest in yourself, invest in yourself, and make sure to continue to make arts a part of your everyday thinking as we continue to build power in our communities. And so I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, a great weekend, and see you all next week. Bye.
Bye. Ashe.